Okay, so today's task is to add the curtain wiring. As you can see, I've got nothing at the moment. That's because I removed all the hooks and so on when I treated the wall and painted it. So now that I've got all that done, it's time to put these on. I actually looked around on YouTube and I couldn't find anyone that actually explained the process of how to install these. I know it's fairly simple, but anyway, I thought I'd do one myself. So what I've got is I've got the curtain wire, I've measured up the length, and I've got just under 10 meters worth. It's amazing how much it all racks up. I've got the actual eyelets, and rather than using the hooks, these things here, which I think are actually quite thin and weak, I'm actually going to be using just standard self-tappers. Now the reason why I'm using these is because I think with these ones here, they're just for like timber and so on. But the Millard has an aluminium frame. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put the screws, I think these aluminium frames are about 25 mil, but I'm going to be putting them in about 20 mil in. So I've got enough coverage, enough privacy, but I'm also using the structure of the aluminium frame to hold the tension of the wire rather than just using the cladding. And what I've done already is I've started marking them. And to mark it, what I've done is I've kind of made a measuring tool, which is this thing here. So I've bent the hook at the end here. I've marked it with a pencil where I want to, and what I've done is I've effectively just put it here and measured across on each end like that. And then once I had the line up, I knew that it was going to be parallel to the window frame, and then I calculated the distance between this frame and the mark being about 20 mil in. So every single one of them has got the X marks the spot. Right, so next thing to do is to start drilling the holes. So I've got the necessary tools, and to put the screws in first. And once I've got the screws in, I'll then be adding the eyelets to each end. And there's a little bit of stretch that you've got to do between them, but I'll cover that anyway. So I'm just going to go ahead now and start drilling these holes for each of those markings. Isn't it amazing how you almost cringe at drilling holes? So anyway, that's the hole there. There's the thread, and I'm sorry about the focus. It seems to be struggling. But anyway, I'm going to screw that one in there. So obviously I'm not leaving it out there. I'm planning on giving it about 5 mil, so about that much room between the cladding and the end of the screw. Right, so slight change of plan. These are 25, and I realized once I started putting the first one in that they were unnecessarily long. So I managed to find another lot of screws, effectively the same size. You can see there in terms of thread and so on, but quite short. And here is how it looks like. So the eyelet will now fit on top of that and sit thusly. Okay, the second one's in there now. Same principle as the other one. So one side's already got the eyelet, as you can see there. And so now the idea is for me to measure up to the other side. I'll have to use two hands here. Give it a bit of a stretch. You can see that that's how much I'm stretching it, just a little bit to give it tension. But then I also have to take into consideration that the eyelet itself has, just like on this side, has a little bit of 2 or 3 mil that it needs to cater for as well. So I'm going to have to position the eyelet here, measure it as it is, pretty much giving it a firm measure, but not so much, and then take, say, like 3 mil off the length to give it that extra tension. And then if I can do this one hand just to show you, So you can see what I'm saying here. So I can tell here what the measurement's going to be, including the thread of the eyelet, and then mark that and then stretch it to cut it, and that'll give me the tension. So I've measured that. See if you can see the pencil marks there. This one here is pretty slack, as in it's not giving it enough tension at all. This one here was like semi. You can see there's about 4 or 5 mil there, but then I gave it a little bit more tension and gave it another measure there. So that's about 10 mil. So from the moment it's sitting there to me applying sufficient tension that I was happy with, that's about 10 mil there. So now I'm going to cut that at that spot. So there it is, just there, roughly, or not roughly, it's quite measured, and bang. And you can see there's a hole there. And now the eyelet just screws into the end there just by hand. Right, so to recap with this one, I've added the eyelets on both ends, just like so. And if I now bring it across without applying pressure, you can see that's how much I've actually allowed. So by stretching it, putting it over there, and now I've got, you know, it's not super tight, but I think it's going to be sufficient. And later on, if I find that, you know, the weight of the curtain start dragging this down, I could always take these out and cut it even shorter. But it's like anything, I think it's kind of similar to this material here, that kind of band material. So you can keep stretching it and stretching it. So that's it. So now I'm going to do the same for the rest, and that should be the end of that. And actually, what I like about it is that it's very, not that it really matters because you'll have a curtain, but you can hardly see it against the white. So the only thing that I've done is I've actually gone a little bit conservative with the amount of stretch. So I would have to see how that holds on and whether or not I need to stretch it out a bit more and so on. But aside from that, she's all done. So at any rate, that's it. Quick and simple one. If you have any questions about this, I'm happy to provide you with how I did this. And as always, thanks for watching.